weapon, guy face, all faces, weapons, faces, and then right to Bob. We continue over, and we have another taser guy in this side, with two more guys with guns coming in. They'll start crawling right toward me. 1, 2, 3. Go.
Get in there!
This thing then, Ralph, grab this thing then.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Get it. Pull them all the way in. All the way in.
Gary, pull them in.
All the way in. Oh, that's great. That's a cut right there. Great. Fabulous.
How do you do?
Put kids out of their minds.
Well, I was planning to make the movie, as much as possible with full-size animatronic dinosaurs. And the only person on the face of the planet that could pull that off was Stan Winston. He had an amazing shop. He had great artisans, and he had great technologists working with him.
We're all dinosaur fans. Everyone who does the type of work we do is a dinosaur fan. So we said we'll do some drawings just to see if our concept and our feeling is in sync with what Steven's looking for in this film.
I was working for Stan Winston, who I had a very long career with, and Stan had to start designing dinosaurs. And Mark Crash McCreary was essential in that, and I was fortunate to have a hand in, coming up with color schemes and things like that.
The drawings I had done initially were more about action and kind of, this is the idea we want to ultimately to walk away with, is that, wow, these things were real animals that could think and move. And we went through a lot of iterations, just drawing-wise.
The ground floor of the process was to come up with the look of each dinosaur and to weave in information now that was coming out about the dinosaurs to try to make these as accurate as possible.
And look at the half-moon-shaped bones on the wrist. It's no wonder these guys learn how to fly.
Well, the first person we went to was Jack Horner, not just to achieve an authenticity, but we wanted a credible resource that could back up several theories that we were sort of expounding. And one was that dinosaurs eventually evolved into birds.
And even the word raptor means bird of prey.
And that's something that Jack Horner believes in and could defend if necessary. And Jack Horner became our credibility.
Then we started working on maquettes, and we had done a little small 1/16 scale Tyrannosaurus Rex maquette. Then we did a 5th scale maquette that had all of the details on it, so Steven could really see what it was going to be. And then we projected that up large.
You like it?
I love it.
It's coming along really good, isn't it?
The first time I saw the T-Rex was at Stan Winston's shop. My kids would say, "Where does the poo-poo come from, Daddy?" I had a chance to actually operate it myself, which was a thrill. Where the movements were so smooth and so authentic. When it would snap its head around, it didn't have a recoil. The head would go as fast as you can imagine and would come to a complete stop and look right at you. Its eyes would stereo focus right on you. That was absolutely frightening to watch. And he also kept it moving. Even when it was still, it was breathing, it had muscles flicking, and he kept every animal alive.
We were building all of the dinosaurs, all the animatronic ones, kind of in parallel because there was so much work to be done. We actually had a baby Triceratops going, which never made it to that movie. That scene got cut out. Plus, there's the famous scene in the movie where the big foot comes down into the mud. So that was going to become a separate animatronic piece.
The spitter, velociraptors, the brachiosaur, or the T-Rex. Stan could give them utterly authentic movements far beyond where we were technologically in 1973-74 with Jaws. But how we were going to get the dinosaurs to run, how we were going to get them to even be in the movie in wide shots was always going to be the old-fashioned way through stop-motion animation. The same way that Willis O'Brien made King Kong, just taking that little armature on a small maquette and just moving it just a millimeter at a time. And Phil Tippett was hired by me to do that because he was the best in the business.
The first call I got was from Kathy Kennedy at home. And I just finished working on this big stop motion project and was absolutely beat. And Kathy calls up and goes, she's all like perky, goes, "Hey Phil, we got this really cool thing we're gonna do with dinosaurs. It's really gonna be a lot of fun." And we're like, "Yeah, really? Okay." Fine. And we all started to plan it out as the conventional stop motion, go motion, rod puppet, high speed with a little bit of computer graphics.
And then one day I got a call from Dennis Murin at ILM, who already had the job of doing Jurassic Park with Phil Tippett. And Dennis said that he thought that he could pull off a full-size dinosaur that would be authentic to the eye. And so he started doing tests. And the first test he did was a whole herd of Gallimimus, just the skeletal structure of the Gallimimus, running through a still photograph of Hawaii. It was several angles of this. And it was so authentic and smooth, I actually said, well, that's the future. That's the way it's going to be from now on.
A couple of the guys, Steve Williams and Mark DePay, were trying to get even closer and do a T-Rex and see how that would work out. And it looked really successful. Then we decided, okay, let's go ahead and do a real shot. And Stefan Fangmeyer lit it. Steve animated it, and we got a shot that just knocked everybody out and was beyond what you could do with stop motion or anything else.
A videotape came from ILM, and we saw this image of what they had done, and we're just, wow, everything changed.
And this technology really kind of, changed my movie forever. And I think in that sense, changed the world forever.
It was April 20th, 1992. I remember we called it Black Monday because we got the word that production was going digital.
At that point in time, it's like big emotional moments, like, when your dog dies. You know your dog's going to die, but when your dog dies, it like hits you really hard. Because it did seem like everything that I had built up until that time was like, we're not going to do that anymore.
It's like suddenly, here we are, we're extinct. We're the dinosaurs. And of course, that irony wasn't lost on any of us.
We're out of a job. Don't you mean extinct?
Because all the computer graphic guys were doing things like, I had no idea what they were doing, and it was just like a monitor and a mouse, and it was like, Jesus.
I'm a firm believer in whatever is the best technique to achieve a shot for the film is how it should be done. If it needs to be CGI, it should be. But if you can get it live in camera, then why not? Because some of the best acting comes from reacting.
It encouraged us to even work harder and, make everything that much more convincing in a realistic, on-stage puppet sense.
The reason that Steven still wanted, obviously, Phil involved was because he realized that his crew had information and experience that was just as important. It's just the toolbox had changed. So what was developed was the DID, or Dinosaur Input Device, which was a traditional stop-motion armature with motion encoders, which would translate anything we animated into a computer model. So it bridged the gap of stop-motion animation into the digital age.
It was exhilarating when we realized that there was a new way to do this and that we were going to be able to create a lifelike looking dinosaur on a level that we never before imagined, and that we were on to a whole new way of looking at Jurassic Park.
So you two dig up dinosaurs?
Well,
Try to.
I bring scientists, you bring a rock star.
If you make a humorless movie about dinosaurs coming back to life in 1993, nobody's going to care about your movie.
I think establishing characters like Laura Dern and Sam and Jeff, it lent a whole sense of credibility to the storytelling because you really believed that they were scientists.
why?
Did I go too fast? I go too fast. I did a flyby. No, give me that big glass of water. We're going to conduct an experiment.
Those characters, when they're postulating, better have a little wit. And David Koepp gave it all the wit. Gave Jeff Goldblum his lecherous crush on the paleobotanist played by Laura Dern. And with Sam Neill being right in the middle, watching this guy hitting on his girl, where Jeff doesn't even know that it's his girl. I mean, that was all David Koepp's kind of invention.
Hammer?
Look at Alan, Kelly. Look at Alan, quickly.
We had to pretend to be scared, and Steven Spielberg going through a bullhorn, you know. So that was kind of more funny than anything. And the acting part was not laughing.
Very nice.
It's not easy.
The three of us are in the Jeep and we start to glance, and as we glanced in the tree and I'm supposed to look up at its neck, there was a giant paper X on it, you know, like a Sharpied X on a piece of white paper. And I just remember looking up like, okay, and that's the dinosaur.
You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
And we did close-ups, and I remember he'd never rehearsed. Ready, Jeff? Okay, there you are. You're seeing the dinosaur. Oh my gosh, just keep rolling.
That looks great.
You're looking at it. You can't believe what you're seeing. Is it real? It now strikes you funny. You don't even know why. You know, and he's just talking me through it, and I'm kind of acting. I enjoyed that a lot.
You know, the first sort of few days of filming, you really had to get your bearings because it was all so new for us. I mean, just to be in sync with what we were looking at and what it would feel like and look like. We had no idea what we were going to see. Can we go see it? Can we go?
Yeah, relax. There's plenty of time this afternoon. My dear,
T-Rex.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
The actors certainly did their jobs, and they believed who they were, and that's all an audience needs, is to believe that the characters are believing in themselves, and that's what the actors did so well. We've been in pre-production for 50 million years on this movie, Jurassic Park, by golly.
He just hung out with us. He bonded with us. He played games with us a lot on the set. And in between playing games, he would throw in a question about our upcoming scene. And he worked with us so seamlessly that we would do anything for him in the performance on the scene.
So you really admire him. To you, he's like a movie star because of your interest in paleontology. This is everybody else's equivalent of a Tom Cruise or a Kevin Costner or a Sam Neill.
I think that he just had a lot of respect for kids and had a lot of respect for their talent, you know, and their intuition. I always felt so much freedom with him. I always felt like I was a part of the collaborative process, you know, that it wasn't just he was telling me what to do or he was talking down to me. It was always, what do you think? And what do you think we should do for this scene? And he trusted my ideas and he let me do that.
And then my teacher tells me about this other book by a guy named Backer.
And he said, slammed on his face, and he slid. Good.
And it was that kind of relationship where I felt like a part of the gang rather than like an outsider looking in that I think brings out such great performances in children.
Grandpa!
Kids!
And I'm a big fan of Richard Attenborough's. I knew Dickie before I cast him in Jurassic Park and liked him a lot and just saw him as John Hammond. Let's get the camera right in here, see if we can get Richard right in here. Richard, you might have to, yeah, there we go, yes sir. Being an actor and a director, he knows to move that much farther to that side. You know, it was interesting to watch Hammond's character suddenly realizing that he might have gone mad. He doesn't utter those words, but he's certainly feeling, what have I done? And only Richard Attenborough, I think, could have pulled that off with such dignity and also with such tragedy in an environment like that.
Working with Rick Carter was great because he was so generous with giving me so many areas to get involved with, you know, again, from the storyboarding to props and vehicles and sets and all that. There's the scene where Nedry goes out into the jungle at night, and we had to get something for him to put the DNA in. It just said in the script, it just said a shaving can. So I went over to Laurel Canyon, the Long's Drugs down there, and I went through the different aisles, and I found a Barbasol can of shaving cream. At the time, I liked the name, and I liked how it graphically it stood off from the shelf from the others, and so just as a whim, this became the can that Nedry used.
There's enough coolant inside for 36 hours.
No menthol?
So you can see, take the top off, and the guys, you know, down the shop did a cool mechanism for it. I think that's a Compsognathus right there. Very cool.
quiet, please. Rehearsal.
I think the first time we saw one of Stan's dinosaurs, we were filming in Kauai. It's a scene where we wander out and there's a sick triceratops which is breathing, and you could go right up to it and its skin was all wrinkly and real. It was extraordinary.
That was one of the cases where there was a dinosaur there, full size, laying down, and the 7 or 8 people who were operating it were unseen, kind of hidden from the actor's immediate view. And one person was working the blinking eyes and the tongue and the breathing body. And when we first came upon this thing, wow, it looked real.
It was kind of a defining moment for us because this was the first dinosaur to really be put on film. And it was the first dinosaur to interact with all the actors.
And action.
And, you know, we were very confident in what we were doing, but at the same time, there's a pressure. You know, it's your baby. You're unveiling this to everyone.
Oh, wow.
You show up and you're just kind of taken aback a second because it's so lifelike. It's so real. You feel the energy from it. And you kind of don't want to even get too close. But when you like kind of get more comfortable, all you want to do is put your hands on it and just like touch it and see like, is this real? Like, how is this? Even the texture, you know, the feeling of it. I just remember being blown away.
You're right. There's no trace of lilac berries.
I think Steven gets a kick out of that. My dream was to work with Steven Spielberg. And so for 20 years now, at any restaurant I've ever been in, there's a child under 10 that comes up to me and says, "Are you the lady who stuck her hand in the dinosaur poopy?" It's like, that is the question I get most commonly in my career.
Thanks. What are her symptoms?
Oh, imbalance, disorientation, labored breathing.
When I did my scene with the Triceratops, I also had the great privilege of working as an actor alongside Jerry Mullen, who is in that scene with me. And because he's one of the crew, having started in other capacities before producing, he knew how to run a set. And we could have never shot in the difficulties and the limitations of Kauai. We could have never done it without Jerry.
And then about 3 weeks in, Hurricane Aniki came in. We turned up for work one morning, and we were told, we're not going to work today because there's a hurricane coming in. Actually, it seems to